Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Real Wealth Network's weekly webinars. My name is Ben Smith. I'm the Director of Investor Relations. I'm also one of our three ICs here at Real Wealth Network. And today, as you can see right in front of you, we are talking Costa Rica, the RISE Costa Rica Wellness Lifestyle Community. Today is November 15th, 2018, and we always like to do a syndication overview periodically. Most of the time, as you know, we have affiliates from our various markets come in, but we like to pepper in some syndications as well as is appropriate. So coming up, our next live event's happening in December. We've got the Saturday the 8th is in San Mateo, our normal location. Sunday the 9th is down in Los Angeles. The 10th in San Diego. And we hope that you can make it. We're going to have a nice little exciting thing going on with Birmingham, Alabama, our Houston affiliate, and we've got a brand new market. It's kind of an offshoot of Houston because the Houston guys are overseeing it, Albuquerque, New Mexico. So it's funny, I'm always asked, do you have anything closer? Do you have anything west of the Mississippi? I don't want to buy property that far away. And I'm like, not really. You know, Houston is as close as it gets. Well, we've just moved one state closer to the West Coast, and we've got Albuquerque. So anyway, that's happening on the 8th, 9th, and 10th in December. And if you haven't registered, please see the website down at the bottom. If you could just register for the event at realwealthnetwork.com/live-events, that would really help us out. A lot of times people don't register, and then we get kind of a bum rush. A lot of people at the end, and it's kind of a mad scramble to get chairs and whatnot. So it can be done. God knows we've done it, but we prefer to avoid having to do that if we can avoid it. Okay, now on to our friendly disclaimer. This is not an offer to sell, nor a solicitation of an offer to purchase securities. This offer is made through a PPM, private placement memorandum, which we can only share with members that we have a documented pre-existing relationship with. These are all Securities and Exchange Commission rules. Strategies mentioned in the presentation may not be appropriate for everybody. Other options not mentioned may be more suitable for your specific circumstance. Please consult your personal accountant, tax advisor, and/or attorney to discuss your specific situation. As always, past performance, never a guarantee of future results. Real estate purchases are subject to investment risks, including the possible loss of amounts invested. While every effort is made, and believe me, a lot of effort is made on our behalf, to maintain accurate and current information, the possibility of errors and/or updates always exist. The purchase of units is speculative, involves a high degree of risk, as described in a lot more detail in the PPM. So I always say trust, not verify. In this case, absolutely, but also read through the PPM. It will explain everything that you will need to know. And if you have any questions based on that, you know, we're here, and you can sometimes reach out to David. Speaking of which, we are speaking with David Comfort today. He's a California-based developer, but he's done all kinds of stuff on the East Coast, New York, New Jersey. Closed a $5 million raise with Real Wealth Network Advisors for Phase A already to purchase and entitle this property. And, you know, Kathy's interviewed some members of his team on some of her podcasts. I can't remember the guy's name, Scott something, but that was a really good podcast she did. We've also assembled a world-class team for project execution. And there you are in all your glory, looking sharp. How you doing, David? Welcome to the webinar.
I'm doing great. Thanks so much. It's always a pleasure to be here. And I'm ecstatic about this webinar in particular because I've got some just monumental news related to the project to share that is just really been executed in the last week. So I'm excited to share about that as well.
That's great. So why don't you just kind of go over our agenda, what we're going to talk about, and if I'm moving too slow, you just nudge me.
Okay, will do. I'll just tell you next slide.
Yep.
Just an overview. We're going to start off talking a little bit about the RISE project, and then take a step back and look at really the global tourism market and really the wellness tourism market, because that helps to put things in perspective of why this project is great and well positioned for the future and for the trends in the wellness tourism and wellness real estate industry, which are emerging and growing at significant rates. We'll then dive a little bit into the community itself, and what we're creating, and how those parts synergize together, and then how it's been broken down into the different stages of development. And lastly, we'll talk about sort of the investment opportunity specifics, so that everybody has a chance to understand how the deal is going to be structured, or is structured, I should say. So basically, the RISE project, or the vision of the RISE project, is to bring together 4 core elements that really harmonize together to create an environment of well-being. And those include a luxury destination wellness resort, broad acreage, permaculture designed agriculture, and a wellness focused residential community. As well, the last part of that is a local village that also has an artisan marketplace. And all of these pieces really come together to form our community. They're the core parts of it. And what we think is the unique offering here is bringing these all together in one place. So often you might find 1 or even 2 of these together, but not really all in one location. And so the project, there you can see just a glimpse of the location of where it is. It's really rather majestic. It's located in Costa Rica. We bought an 800-acre property. It's a quick 20-minute flight from San Jose International Airport. There's commercial flights into the city of San Isidro, which is 20 minutes away, or you can actually fly right onto our property. You can see there's a grass airstrip to the right, and that is a place where I often fly into. And most of our guests, including all the Real Wealth Network investors that came down in July and had an amazing time, they flew in there as well. We've already, our farm is already certified organic. We've planted thousands of fruit trees and vegetable gardens, and plenty of hardwoods, and reforested. And so we got started a while ago, and it's only getting stronger. So we're going to talk a little bit about why now. Why is this project poised for success right now? And it's really around the growth of the wellness economy. And I think all of us in general can see people paying more attention to the things they put in their bodies, the experiences they have, how they treat their bodies physically. And that market has been growing dramatically. I had this exact same slide in 2015, and it was 3.7 trillion. So it grew by 500 billion just over the last 2 years. And a big chunk of that is in the wellness tourism market. So that's where our luxury destination retreat fits in. And then another segment that has been growing dramatically is wellness real estate. People not only want to visit and go on vacation in these areas and have these experiences, they want to live there full time. And that's where the wellness real estate market comes in. Wellness tourism, it's not only a growing market, it's a profitable market. Wellness tourists tend to spend considerably more. They're often very repeat customers. And so that market is growing at twice the rate of the traditional tourism market. And so for me, we're going to talk a little bit as we go through this about tailwinds about that support an investment thesis. And the growing wellness tourism market is certainly one. At the same time, like I said, they're evolving it to thinking this is not just a place I want to visit, it's a place I might want to live. And so we need to start thinking about, okay, what are the needs of the wellness real estate customer? And so that's what brought in elements like the school, like the village, and then not only that, but the farm. I've said before that the farm is, an organic farm in particular, is like the new golf course. And people being able to source most of their food right from the property or locally is very important, and an attractive part of the sales proposition for us. This here we're just talking a little bit more about the growth of the wellness real estate market, and that people living in close proximity to each other, sharing common goals, interests, pursuing wellness activities, is really generating all of this business. And like I said, it's growing at twice the rate of the normal market. So how we see wellness and where this is going. We see wellness as a journey that for many people has points, stopping points along the way, but well-being is the destination. And so how can we create a place that holds you in that well-being? So it's not just a question of going to a wellness experience or a wellness retreat and then coming back to your normal lifestyle at home and losing all of the insights and benefits and support that you had along that way. And so what we see in this next slide is wellness as sort of an infinity symbol, a place where you're touching on every single of the most core components of wellness every single day. Let me show that on the next slide here, where we have the retreat, the residences, the farm, and the village, all located on one property and with guests' ability and residents' ability to interact with them on a daily basis. And from that place, they can run their businesses, they can, lead and interact with their families and be in social networks that feel nourishing to them. And so this is really how we see wellness. And so in order to achieve that, in the next slide, we're showing what are some of the building blocks of that. And for us, it is that focus on wellness, but also a culture of hospitality, that gift of anticipation, of knowing what people's needs are before they may even know that. And I think of one company I've said before that I think often did this really well for me was Apple. They seemed to know what I needed before I even knew that I needed it. And then they solved something for me, and then it became something I couldn't live without. So that's really how we service everybody at Rise. And we take that from not only in the farm, not only in the hotel or retreat, but in the residences and the village as well, that gift of anticipation. And we do it all with a reverence for the planet and an ecological sensitivity, how we interact with each other, and also to touch as many lives as possible. One of the greatest joys that we're having to date on this project is how the impact that it's having on the community, and it's just really touching to see. So how did we end up, I guess, at Costa Rica with this project? Why did we choose Costa Rica versus anywhere around the world? And we did look around the world. One, its proximity to the United States. It's a 3 to 5 hour flight from a lot of major cities. When I think of the audience that appreciates and engages in these types of activities, you think California, Texas, Florida, New York, all have direct flights into San Jose. It's a country that already has a reputation for ecotourism and conservation. It's one of the most biodiverse places in the world. There's been political stability for years. It's often ranked #1 in the happiness index. It just checked off a lot of boxes for us. Well-educated workforce, high per capita income, all of these things. And so when we think about where's the ideal place to open up our first location, that's what came to mind for us. And Costa Rica really checked off all of those boxes for us. So we've broken the project into 3 phases, and as recalled earlier, we started with phase A with the property purchase and entitlement, and that's what RWN and investors invested in approximately 2 years ago. We've completed that the execution parts of that phase, and are now moving on to the residential phase. what will follow right soon after is the resort, and all of these are critical components to work together. So we don't want to do it in a linear fashion. There's definitely some overlap. So why don't we talk a little bit about what was accomplished in Phase A and how that impacts Phase B in the next slide.
Okay.
We received the entitlements, which was an important element to unlock the value of the property, and that's literally the rights to all of the to build all of these things, to have a farm, a hotel, residences, and a village, to do all these things in one property was critical for us. And you can imagine in the United States that would be very challenging from a zoning perspective. We established very important local government relationships. The mayor has been out there frequently, and we have the support of the municipality. And there are going to be some updates in a moment I'll tell you about there where that's really bearing a lot of fruit. We put in a fiber optic network, the operations and management team. We did some initial design work on the architecture side. And then one major step that we put in was to install Kinkara. And Kinkara is a luxury glamping space that we built for groups. And it's an absolutely gorgeous tenting camp with none of the elements that you might think of when you think of tenting. This is a luxurious experience. And the feedback that we've got from guests has been overwhelming. But it's not just to create a hospitality experience. It also is an important function in the future sales of our homes, because this is where we will host people. And so if we're going to bring people to the property and introduce them to a different way of life and a Costa Rica experience, we need to do it in the highest quality way. And the group of 28 or so RWN investors that came down in July really had a wonderful experience. If you've ever reached out or seen their comments, it was just magical. And the groups that we've had down since have felt very much the same way. And so as we move through, I'll just show you some of the spaces that we've created there. Some of the social spaces here at our clubhouse. On the next slide, you'll see, I think it's El Marin. This is our yoga pavilion. This was the press trip that we had there. They had just an incredible time doing yoga and surfing lessons and waterfall trips. This is what our tents look like, and just sleeping under the stars in these tents. They're all organic linens. And then our bathhouses, I think, are also something that tend to blow people away when they think of a tent camp. They don't think of being in rain showers like this, but it was really.
It's kind of more like glamping than camping.
Yes, exactly. So it's a critical part of our sales tool for our homes. And so I think of it as a sales office that makes money, and that at the end of the day, you have an asset rather than a liability in terms of the sales office that you built, and when you're done, it's not worth anything anymore. Here we have a performing asset. We've recently put a management company called Cayuga in place to manage the property. They manage a number of luxury eco boutique hotels in Costa Rica, and Panama and Nicaragua. Their principals are two graduates of Cornell's Hotel School, hence the name Cayuga, which is one of the Finger Lakes up there. But she is Costa Rican, and it's a Costa Rican company. So it was a great fit, and they have a long history of commitment to sustainability, which was right in line with our own ethos. So now we're at, let's stay on Phase B there.
All right, sorry.
So what's coming up on Phase B is initially the development of approximately 40 signature homes and 55 micro homes. and that work has already started. Actually, we started the earthwork for that this year, and we'll get into a little bit more later of what we've done there. But all of these homes will have access to the wellness retreat. They'll also have their own common house, which will have all amenities like a full kitchen and dining, lounge, resort-style pool, just a beautiful place for the community to gather. And then the third phase is what we're calling Phase C, which is the luxury wellness resort. This is an important piece as well when you think about home sales. As we are selling homes and this luxury resort is under construction, it is an amenity for our home buyers. And so it's important that we're continuing to advance that, and it'll be a really important amenity for our buyers, and then also to bring all of the outside guests and invite basically the rest of the world to our property to see what we're achieving. So where are we to date? What's going on site? The infrastructure engineering design is 100% complete, and so like I said, we had started some road work and drainage, and this large area, graveled area to the right, Ben, next slide.
All right.
Unless there's a delay, is actually where the common house is going. And so we're basically prepping the site for the first stages of residential construction, which we expect to start in January as well. It's good to sort of align that with the driest time of the year. And so we'll be finishing the infrastructure work and then get started on vertical construction. But all of the design, including, telecom, potable water, stormwater drainage, and electrical are done. And we have all the bids, and we are chomping at the bit, ready to go. So how do we bring a project like this to fruition? And to me, you need to bring in a world-class team. And that starts with our project manager, CM&D. They have managed and developed billions of dollars worth of properties around the world. They have an office in San Jose, Costa Rica. They are the project managers for another luxury resort called Aman, Costa Rica, which is a luxury hospitality brand. And so having them as a partner is critical. And when we talk about our new financial partner a little later in the presentation, that was a critical piece for him as well. The next is your architecture and design team. Blink is our design architect, and Zurcher is our local executive architect. Blink has multiple offices around the world, but has designed many luxury resorts in Southeast Asia and other areas of the world, like Banyan Tree and Jumeirah and Amman, all kinds of just absolutely gorgeous locations. And so they're designing the resort and the homes. And they'll be supported locally by Ron Zurcher and his architectural office. They're by far the most well-known and architecture firm in Costa Rica. The Four Seasons Papagayos was done by them. The Andas, they are seasoned hospitality architects and the perfect support for us. One of our relatively newer members that Kathy has had on her show is Sue Harmsworth, and Sue's just an absolute powerhouse. She recently sold her company for well over $100 million, and that company was called ESPA. She's a 73-year-old woman with the energy of a 40-year-old, and she has joined us and brought all of her experience in spa design, spa operations, and product sales for the spa to our project. Her company managed close to 700 spas in 65 different countries. There really is, I don't believe, anybody on the planet who knows more about creating wellness centers and how to make them profitable and also deliver amazing experiences than her. And with her comes her network She then brought in Laura Boss with Twig, and that's Sue's former leading designer. And so she just brings a wealth of knowledge and around what is our core offering. And so what we have invited Sue to do is, she's just an absolute genius, and I think there's even more that she has left to bring to this world, beyond the spa, beyond her expertise in the spa world. She's going to even influence the common house and how those elements come together, so that we do have this one integrated offering. So it doesn't matter if you're staying at the retreat or if you're a resident who's asked to have a little dinner party hosted at the common house. It's all done with this hospitality excellence, with this mindfulness around our well-being. And Sue's going to help bring that together.
Got it.
So let's move on to some of the details of the investment opportunity. So currently, we are accepting new investors, and this structure is slightly more complicated than some of the other RWN structures. So I want to sort of take our time going through it. Basically, the Real Wealth Network has formed an investment LLC called RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC. And that is the entity into which you would be investing. And then that entity invests in the project. And so the investment terms between the project and the RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC is that LLC earns a 15% preferred return and 45% of the residual profits, assuming that the offering is fully subscribed. So that's the pool of money that would go from the project to the RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC. And then we need to discuss how that pool is then distributed amongst you all, because we have created two different classes of investment in order to accommodate investors with different investment goals, financial goals. And so before we go into the details of that, if you could go one more slide, we've done a little organization chart here that sort of outlines the relationship between these different entities. So next slide.
We're going here. Come on.
All right.
Every once in a while, it freezes
There we
up.
go.
There we go.
So Rise CR LLC, right in the center there, is the master project LLC based in the U.S. And then you can see RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC is a member of that LLC. And then each one of you all will be deciding whether you want to be a priority loan investor in that RWN Costa Rica LLC, or do you want to be an equity investor in that LLC? And so we're going to go through what a couple of those options look like. But just to have an idea of what the structure is, this org chart is very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So if we move on to the next slide, we'll talk about the two different options. Option one, and this is to participate in the priority loan. And this class was primarily put in place to make sure that we could accept IRA, self-directed IRA investments, but it is open to both individual and IRA investors. And so in this instance, you are loaning money to the RWN Costa Rica LLC at 18% interest per year. And you are loaning them that money, and then they are investing it into the project as equity. And so in exchange for that loan, you are first in the capital stack and first to get repaid within that RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC. So you get an 18% simple interest return and are first in the capital stack to be repaid from the pool of money that comes from the project, from Rise CR down to the RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC. So that is the first option. The other option is to be an equity member of that RWN Costa Rica LLC. And in that instance, there's a little bit of a longer term investment because your investment sits behind the private loan units, but it does have potential for higher returns. It has unlimited potential on the upside because you're already an equity owner. And so after the priority loan investors have been repaid their principal and their interest, all available proceeds go to the equity units in perpetuity. So the advantage of the equity is that there is the potential for higher returns, and the advantage for the benefit of the private loan is that you get repaid earlier. And so those are the two primary differences. I will say that also with the equity, if you are an IRA investor, we strongly advise that you stay in the private loan area so as not to trigger any UBIT issues for your IRA, which is a tax challenge.
Yeah, the unrelated business income tax is always going to potentially bites people when they use their IRA. So yes, stay with option one from within your IRA. Good advice. Talk to your CPA, but good advice.
Yes. So in the next slide, we're going to just look at what the potential returns would look like if you choose one unit or the other. And you can see that in the timeline for the private loan is approximately 21 months, 18 to 21 month investment from the point at which you invest. And a sample return over that period would be $15,000 in interest. For a total project return of $65,000 on a $50,000 investment. A $50,000 investment in the equity over a longer year period, 4-year period, would yield a total return of $111,000, and that's approximately a 25% IRR over that period. So there it sort of highlights some of the differences between the two.
But
solid returns.
David,
yeah.
Just real quick, but that is over the period. So you're not really comparing apples to apples. For example, a 21-month return to get the 65, but a 48-month return to get the 111. It's over a longer period of time. So one would really have to annualize that to compare apples to apples.
Correct. So it is a longer term horizon there for that investment. Mm-hmm. So thank you for highlighting that.
Sure.
So let's talk about some of the risks. We mentioned this a little bit earlier, but and how we mitigate them. Political risk is certainly one to think about when you're investing in a foreign country. There's been political stability in Costa Rica for quite a while. It's not Nicaragua. It's near Nicaragua, but Costa Rica, the political stability of the country was something that was very attractive to us as we decided where we wanted to do that. But it's always a risk when you invest. It's a risk in the United States as well. That the politics of any country can change, and that should be factored in. Delays. Construction delays are notorious. Costa Rica is not immune to those, and we would not be immune to that possibly coming up. To date, we've been able to navigate that very well, in part due to those relationship building that we talked about doing with the municipality. While it's not necessarily legal in the United States, in Costa Rica, one of our consultants is high up in the municipality, and he's a paid consultant of ours, and there's nothing illegal about that. That helps to mitigate any permit-related issues or any kind of regulatory issues that come up for us. Operational risk. I mentioned this is my first overseas project, and so there's no doubt would be some new challenges that came with that. My way of mitigating that risk is to bring in and surround myself with a lot of people who know what the heck they're doing. and have done it before. And so when you look at our professional team, our project management team, and the breadth of experience they have, that is the way that I mitigate that for our project. And to date, it's served the project well, but it exists as a risk, being my first project overseas. Competition. There is a property about 20 minutes away, Auberge, Altagracia, a beautiful property. It's owned by the former owner of the land that we've purchased here. He is a close friend and advocate of the project. He's actually helped facilitate a lot of the relationships we have. He's one of the wealthiest and most influential Costa Ricans in the country, but he does have a competitive product 20 minutes away. It caters to a little bit more of a traditional idea of luxury. It's not as, I would say, wellness focused. They do have a spa there, but the breadth of their well-being offering, I would say that it's not go near to the extent that we do. I feel like their customer is more of a St. Regis customer than a Six Senses customer. And so in that way, we're actually working together, and them being in the valley is actually an asset to the project at this moment in time, and I think it will continue to be.
Right.
Currency risk is another element to consider with the project. Recently, the U.S. dollar and Costa Rica colon have enjoyed a very stable relationship for a number of years. Very recently, and I'm talking in the last maybe 6 to 8 weeks, the dollar has appreciated versus the Costa Rica colon, which has been an advantage for us financially, because we pay all of our workers and we pay so many contracts in colones. So that has been an advantage for us. But typically, the current currency stability for Costa Rica has been stable, and was an important part of why we were investing there. So let's talk about the next slide. The time is now. Now I can get to the most exciting announcement of the whole project and why everybody's here. So we've been moving this project along and at a measured pace, matching our how we raise capital with what we've needed. But the time came for us to start thinking bigger about the whole project. And a couple months ago, we identified a partner who we thought was willing to and had the resources to finance most, if not all, of the entire project. And I can tell you today that late last week, I executed an agreement of terms with him to contribute 80% of the project costs. And I'm actually flying there tomorrow to Charlotte, North Carolina to meet with him in person. And we are moving to close this deal as soon as possible, the first tranche by hopefully the end of the year. And so we've divided the closing into 2 phases. The first with the residential phase, which is he's going to contribute $16 million, and we will contribute $4 million, and that will completely close the loop on financing for the residential phase. The next phase, which would be the wellness retreat phase, we anticipate closing a couple months later, where he will contribute another $48 to $50 million. To the project. It's as I've mentioned here, he's a known contact for us and our project manager. He's invested a couple $100 million or more than that in 2 other projects that CM&D is managing, and he happens to have a crazy coincidental connection to our area. While he is an American, he happened to have lived in Costa Rica for 13 years, 6 of those in San Isidro de El General, which is 20 minutes away from our project. And he is married to a Costa Rican woman who grew up in the town that Rise is in. So like the world and life is just crazy.
Yeah, that's coincidental. That's wild.
Right. But there's also the benefit to that. There is a real emotional attachment that he has to this project as well. You know, I just chuckled the other day, said, oh, well, I'll be in Perez Zeledon, or where Rise is, over the holidays to see my wife's family, you know, to be with my wife's family. So and he's often asking about what are we doing on the social front? How many people have we hired? What are we doing for the community? And so this is just an epic announcement. And it's of the many milestones that we've reached, this is the biggest one. And because after here, it's really just all about execution. And so we're gonna close this. It's the terms are extraordinary, and I'm just thrilled by this development. I really could not be happier. And the timing of it is ideal as we move into the beginning part of 2019 when we're about to start all the earthwork, and it's really perfect timing. And I mentioned earlier Kinkara. Without Kinkara, this deal wouldn't be happening. He was a little concerned. He said, "How are you going to sell these homes?" And he liked our sales and marketing plan. But then when we told him about Kinkara, he said, "That's a game changer for me, because now you can actually deliver on the experience for people who come there. And when they're deciding whether they want to buy a home, you can take them literally through the experience instead of having them stay at a hotel or in town or something." So yeah, it was a huge part. Yeah. And one other point I'll add here, and it's not one I can guarantee as much, but in a meeting with the mayor's office about 4 weeks ago, there's been talk of expanding the San Isidro Airport, which is 20 minutes away from our property, to accommodate larger aircraft. The mayor confirmed to me that they have now formed a public-private partnership to expand the airport. And the biggest thing is it's now going to be an international airport, and it will be able to receive flights directly from the United States. So this is an enormous development. It's not public right now. And I do want to qualify this, that, you know, sometimes governments, you know, say things and they don't necessarily come to fruition, or they come to fruition over a different time frame. But I feel a lot of confidence around this, largely because I was speaking directly to him, but also because I know that Don Alberto, the owner of Altagracia, and as I said, one of the more influential men in Costa Rica, has been the driving force behind this and getting it to be an international airport. So this is just another one of what I'll call those tailwinds that it will elevate the entire real estate economy in this already fast-growing valley. This is the fastest-growing region of Costa Rica. And that's just another tailwind for the project, and one that's really huge. So
nice. And I kind of skipped over the last slide because we're running out of time a little bit, and we have a few questions. But you do need to be an accredited investor to if you're U.S. If you're not U.S., you don't. But non-U.S. investors are welcome. And you want to talk about the next steps, or do you want me to give your vocal cords a break and take us through this before we get to questions?
The only thing left for me to say is you can learn a lot more at risecostarica.com and Kinkara.com, Kinkara. But I'll let you take it through next steps, and yeah. Go.
And then we'll get to some questions. Okay, so yes, the offering documents are all on our site, realwealthnetwork.com. Log in and click invest. You can navigate to the Costa Rica project page. There's a lot of pictures and different links and whatnot. You do have to fill out the investor qualification form. It's kind of like a little process that keeps us compliant with the SEC regs. It's actually pretty easy to do. I've walked through it. Review the offering documents in detail, submit everything via DocuSign, It's all fairly self-explanatory. And then if you have any questions at all on it, Maggie and Ann with our syndications department can be reached at syndications@realwealthnetwork.com. That's syndications with an S at realwealthnetwork.com. And just like David just said, more information can be found at Rise Costa Rica and Kinkara.com. So we do have a few questions here, and it's okay. We in the interest of time, we'll try to be fairly brief with your answers. But let's see, we got a few of them here. A lot of the timing questions you did address in terms of when the A investors will receive their distribution and the time frame for repayment of the loans. That was all on the slide that was back there a few slides back. So we don't need to go over that. Here's a question. I thought earlier slides were showing no preferred return for equity investors. Is there a preferred return for equity investors?
Yeah, let me, I was going to say we could go back to the slide, but let me try and talk through that. So recall that there is a preferred return from the project to the RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC. So the RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC is making an equity investment into the project, and they are receiving a 15% preferred return, and then 45% of the residual profit. That's what goes to the LLC entity. At that point, that pool of money is then used to return capital and to pay off the private loan and the equity. And the order in which that happens is that the private loan investors are paid their principal and interest first, and then all other proceeds go to the equity units. So there's no a preferred return is a structure that is put in place when one has to decide between what goes to one group and what goes to another. But at that point, all proceeds go to the equity unit. So they don't have to split their proceeds with anybody, no matter how high their return goes. So that's why there's no designation as a preferred return for the equity units within their LLC. There is the preferred return up at the project level because there are other partners. There's outside investors, there's me as the developer, and so a preferred return structure is put in place when there's how to split up a pool of money when there's multiple participants. But down at the RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC, once the priority loan units are paid off, all proceeds, no matter how much they are, go to the equity.
Got it. What are the sizes of the signature homes and the micro homes from a square footage standpoint?
The signature homes range from approximately 1,500 square feet up to 3,500 square feet. And the micro homes range from approximately 550 square feet up to about 1,000.
Got it. 550 to 1,000. Okay, perfect. And you touched on this briefly, but have you considered how a recession or another financial crisis would impact the development and sale of the project?
I think that the most direct impact would be on the absorption rate. So it would serve to extend the length of time that it would take to sell out our home types. So just to be clear, we are not building 95 spec homes and then crossing our fingers and hoping that we sell them. We're building 10 of the signature homes and 5 of the micro homes right out of the gate. But we're not going to be building every home and taking on that type of risk.
Got it. Okay. And remember how I talked about how the percentages listed are on a different timeline. The one on the left is the 21-month, and the one on the right is approximately 4-year. It should also be pointed out that the internal rate of return is also listed kind of up there at the top, and that does roughly annualize it. So even in that situation, the equity does get a 25% projected internal rate of return annualized as opposed to 16.8. But if you're an IRA investor, the UBIT does potentially really affect those numbers. All righty. So let's see. Some of these questions are really kind of detailed, and I think we're going to lose people if we get into that level of detail. Let's see. Ben, regarding my question on the priority loans, the time frame was 18 to 21 months when the offering was first made a year ago. However, is it still 18 to 21 months more from now? Question mark.
It's 18 to 21 months from when we close the offering, which the offering is expected to close by the end of this year.
Got it. Okay. Will the new investor, in other words, somebody who invests now, will they be a lender or will they be an equity investor? Or is that, just like you've outlined, something for them to pick? They get to choose.
So to be clear, the RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC is an equity investor into the project. If you choose the priority loan investment, you are loaning money not to the project, you are loaning money to RWN Costa Rica Investors LLC, who is then using that money to make an equity investment. So I want to distinguish that the priority loan is not a collateralized loan against the property itself. It is basically a company loan. You are loaning the LLC, which is a limited liability company. You are loaning that money to them in exchange for 18% interest from them when they get their proceeds back from the project. So
okay.
I want to make that clear.
Oh, that makes sense. And the clarification that she just typed in is she's not talking about, she's talking about the new investor being the new 4 million investor, not so much the RWN investors. Does that make sense?
Oh, that isn't. The question is whether that's a loan or a equity. That is equity.
Okay.
That's the question.
Gotcha. I think that was the question. Yes. All righty. Yes, and it was. Beautiful. Thank you. You are welcome, Lenora. Thank you for asking. All righty. Let's see. And we're running a little bit over, but I'm just going to try to knock these out quickly. Do you plan on doing another visit, like another investor tour, like the one that happened in July? Some people are very interested. I know that internally we've been talking about it, and maybe do you have any more information, David, on that?
So we do have some investors coming down, I believe in February. There's some coming down in 2 weeks. We don't have a sort of group tour like planned, but if there are investors or potential investors that would like to come visit, we would love to accommodate you. We've tried to group, if a couple of investors want to come down, we try and group them at the same time. But we're happy to receive you and hope you'll enjoy the Kinkara and Rise experience as much as everybody to date has.
Got it. Okay. All righty. Well, I think that about, here's one more that just came in. Is the Kinkara open for reservations by the public, or do guests have to make group arrangements with Rise? So
it is open, but Kinkara is set up for groups. So we don't accommodate, it's not like a hotel where you can just call up and book a night and come on down. We cater to groups of 10 to 50. That being said, I know that we are planning it at short notice, but we planned a trip January 10th to the 20th was a time frame that we're opening that up to individuals or that want to come down, and we'll treat them all as sort of one group. You don't have to stay the whole time. The minimum is three nights, but we decided to experiment with that while also maintaining like our core audience, which is groups. And so you can Kinkara.com. There's the offer should be there, and if not, you can reach out directly. But I will likely be down there during that time as well, so I'd love to see you.
All right. I'm going to go to that lovely picture. There we go. Okay. Well, I think I'm going to have to stop it at that point because we've got a couple more questions that are just so detailed that it's a little too specific. What I would like to do is just advise everybody to please, if you didn't get your question answered, just email us at syndications@realwealthnetwork.com. Just be as detailed as you want to be in that question. We will take a look at it. If syndications doesn't have a detailed answer, they'll forward it to David. We'll get you an answer. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on our slide. And thanks, Jill, for bringing that back up. My name is Ben Smith. I'm the Director of Investor Relations. You've been listening to David Comfort. David, good job. Thank you so much. We will absolutely let everybody know if we're going to do another tour. I'm sensing in the wind, and I have for a couple of weeks, that people would love to make another visit down there. I've heard nothing but positive responses to the tour that was down there in July. It created a lot of positive buzz, and people had a really good time. So, David, thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. It's always a pleasure, and we'll connect more soon.
All right. Good luck on your trip to Charlotte tomorrow. And for all those of you still listening, thanks for hanging with us as we went a little bit over. We do these webinars every week, Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And I believe Birmingham is going to be the one happening 7 days from today. So thank you so much. We'll do it again next week. Bye-bye, everybody.